Hello, 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 and welcome to WLF Live. I am Erica Roberts, the founder and president of X is Possible LLC, a personal and professional development consultancy that focuses on leadership development, career development, entrepreneurial development, and student leadership as well. And so I'm so excited to be here for this final WLF Live for me in 2021 and to focus on something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is growth. Growth, continuous development, lifelong learners. We hear those things, we say those things, we claim to be those things and to be committed to those things. But what does that mean to you? And how does that present itself in your life? So if you say that you are committed to professional development, to career advancement, to growing yourself and your business, growing in your mindset, and helping to lead others toward growth too, what are you actually doing toward that? And so it seems appropriate as we prepare to close out this year and to usher in a new year to start thinking about what our growth and development needs are going forward and how to position ourselves for the success that we say we want in 2022. And so I am excited to talk through a quick framework for career development. And then we are going to have some special guests, some of my absolute favorite people, to talk about specific areas of growth and development and ways, strategies, tools, techniques, forums that can support yours both in 2021 as we close out the year and going forward. So the first piece, and if you've heard me on WLF Live or in the eSuite Academy or anywhere else, I always start out with mindset and making certain that you have the mindset of one that can achieve your goals and one that is willing to grow and that is able to succeed. You have to believe that before you proceed with anything. And so we will bring on some people later on to talk about mindset and give you some tools about that. But mindset and self-awareness, knowing where you are today, knowing what your strengths are, knowing where your areas of improvement are important. When we talk about self-awareness, I always challenge people and task people to also know their priorities. What is it that's important to you? And it may not be someone else's definition of success. It may not be someone else's path. It might be that your family is a priority. Your health is a priority. Money may be a priority. And it's important to know what is really driving you before, whether you're a student, you're an executive, you're an entrepreneur, before you jump into that next thing, before you jump into a plan, before you start to attend events, it's important to know and to keep your sights on where am I going with this and what are my ultimate goals? What are my priorities and does this align? So we talk about that assessment of your mindset and self-assessment. And then you get into the let me get ready. And I say stay ready so you don't have to get ready. But if you're not ready yet, getting ready and making certain that the things that you're going to need in place, like your resume, like your cover letters, like your capability statements, those things that you will need to be able to advance are in place. Before you can get those things in place, you have to, again, be self-aware. Look at your gaps, look at where you need to grow, look at things and experiences that you may not have had. And so that's where we're going to talk about today. That's where we're centering it in kind of closing that gap and looking at areas of focus for continuous development, professional development, and career development. And so I will tell you, as a manager, supervisor for over 20 years, I was very, very, very focused on employee development and making certain that everyone that worked with me had an individual development plan or a management development plan. And I know that can be taboo for some people. They associate it with performance deficiencies or things like that. But I looked at it as an opportunity to continuously and strategically grow. I often got a question from folks, well, what should be in my individual development plan? What should I focus on? And there are books you can read to include that. You can have shadow opportunities to get new experiences. You may have networking as a specific strategic goal that you incorporate into a plan. You may attend certain conferences and trainings, and it will really differ based on what your goals are. So I'm excited now to bring up and introduce and have a little chat as part of this conversation in WLF Live with my friend, with my colleague, with somebody who I admire, Deetra Giles, who is not only an expert executive coach, DEI coach, and consultant, but also has now moved into really looking at remote work and virtual spaces. And so, Deetra, if you can come on up, hello.
Hello, hello.
And so, I wanted to bring you into this conversation about goal setting and making certain that we're intentional about our goals for career, and then what tools and techniques folks can use based on where they are in their careers and what those goals are. So with that, I'm going to just let you share any insights you have there, and for a moment give them a couple of nuggets of wisdom.
Absolutely. So I love that we're talking about this now because right now, you don't know how many people I have gotten messages from freaking out. It is only 12, like it's only noon on December 1st, East Coast. And people are already freaking out because they just realized when they woke up, there are only 31 days left in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And like, oh my gosh, teacher, what do I do? And for me, I did a Instagram reel on it this morning. You do nothing. You stay the course. And the thing you're talking about, people preparing their careers, your career preparation comes from having a strategy and a plan. The people who are freaking out, they don't have a plan. They had no strategy. They just kind of floated through this year, hoping that things would go their way, thinking that things will work. And I tell them, hope was a great campaign slogan. It is a horrible life strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so if you find yourself on this day, December 1st, with the last 31 days of 2021 left freaking out, I submit to you, you don't have a plan. And that's where you need to back up from. You need to back up from there and ask yourself, what is my plan going forward? Where do I want to be? How will I get there? And who's going to help me get there? And that could be everything from many of us realizing, hey, my job has said we're going back to the office. I don't want to go. Because
Mm-hmm.
let me be honest with you, I haven't had to go into anyone's office for over 6 years now. And you can't get me in the office. But if that's your situation, what is your plan? Is your plan to sacrifice the life you've become accustomed to and go back into the office? Is your plan to stay home and quit your job? Is your plan to start a business? Is your plan to get a promotion? But the bottom line is you have to have a strategy and a plan. If you have a plan, keep the course. If you don't, I need for you to pause and come up with a strategy.
And this is the perfect time. And I'm glad you mentioned that it's December 1st, because, we hear about New Year's resolutions. So you're one of two places. You may be the person who is December 1st and you wrote this list of New Year's resolutions January 1st, 2021, if you're listening to this live, and you didn't really accomplish much on that plan. This is the time to go back and revisit, see what still, is on this list of goals I had 12 months ago that still fits me. It might be that something, as Deetra mentioned, has changed in your life or in your goals. Those things that remain as part of my long-term goal that fit whatever my priorities are, you have 31 days to get moving on those, and to recommit yourself to those. That's
Absolutely.
that's the first person. The second person is the person that never had a plan. And I will tell you, there is no time like the present to sit down in December as things are winding down and focus on what do I want, where do I want to be, what's important to me, and why, and get that plan. You don't have to wait till January 1st to write out your plan for the new year.
You don't. And here's the thing too. I challenge you. Well, you already know. I'm going to push your buttons. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to call you out. There are a bunch of people listening and watching who will say they had a plan and they didn't. Let's be clear. Just because you wrote it down doesn't mean you have a plan. And this is something I tell all of my clients. A decision means nothing. People decide every day, just like you decided you would be fine by the summertime and you went to the gym for 5 minutes one day. A decision means nothing. Action is when you have a plan. So when you write that thing down and you take action on it, that's when you really have a plan. When you write it down, all you have is a script. You don't have a Broadway award winning play. You just have a script. It doesn't become a Tony nominated play until you take action. You don't have a plan if you haven't taken action. So some of you are saying, girl, I had a plan. What have you done on that list? If you've done nothing, you made a decision. You didn't take an action.
And so I had to look down for a second when you talked about the gym because you stepped on my toes, Deepa. You stepped on my toes. But with that, so let's talk about actions. And if you are at the point where you want to start thinking about and committing to plans for 2022 or for beyond, what types of actions might that look like?
So the first action is recognizing what you haven't done. Do not go to another vision board party. Do not meet with another coach. And listen, I'm a coach and I love clients, but don't call me if you haven't taken action on the stuff you've already done. You don't need a new vision. You need to complete the one you've already have. So start there. Start with what are the things I committed to that I did not actually finish, and let's finish those. The second thing is reassessing where you are. Some of us beat ourselves up for not accomplishing things when the reality is when we assign those things, we weren't where we are right now. For example, I think about my daughter who's getting ready to go off to college next year. Well, a couple years ago, she assigned herself these tasks. Those tasks no longer benefit her as a high school student because she's about to graduate from high school. So if she's still trying to accomplish high school tasks, you're already behind the eight ball. So really stepping back and reassessing where you are and what are the things that are going to get me to where I'm going. And then the last thing is knowing where you are going. Your strategy is simply your GPS. That's all your strategy is. Your strategy is like you going into your phone, typing in an address, and it tells you how to get there turn by turn. Well, if you can't type in an address, your strategy is useless. So stepping back and asking yourself, what do I want to accomplish? Where am I going? And then assigning the task to get there.
And those tasks may look like having a daily or weekly podcast that you listen to that can keep you motivated. It may look like attending the Forward Women's Leadership Forum, March 24th through the 26th, so that you can get reset and help identify and assess your areas of growth, right? It may look like attending eSuite Academy, which I won't talk about here, but looking into those things that will really fuel you and help you grow. It may look like talking to your supervisor or your manager to getting opportunities to have new experiences. It may look like joining a professional association or organization so that you are building your network and continuing to learn things that you did not know. So when we're talking about it may actually be reading a book and finding maybe a monthly book to read and learn from and journal about so that you're really growing. Those are some of the ideas, the suggestions or ideas of tasks that you can assign yourself. As Deetra said, though, strategically and in alignment with a plan. All right. So Deetra, I mentioned maybe podcasts. Any podcasts that you think that are specifically helpful for folks that are looking to navigate or grow in their careers?
Well, personally, I am partial to this podcast called Happily Ever Employed Podcast.
I've heard
The
about
podcast that gets you from the cubicle to the corner office. But really, it's my podcast. But I really dive deep into those things that you need to be doing, not just this esoteric thinking about stuff, but what do you need to be doing to move the needle on your career? And I say cubicle to the corner office because I'm not just trying to get you to director. I'm trying to get you to CEO, whether it's the CEO of your career and the company you're working in, or CEO of your own LLC, INC, S Corp. But you need to learn the detailed dive in. And this is your free way of getting coaching from me because my coaching can be expensive, but you can listen to the Happily Ever Employed podcast every week and get this deep dive of some of the very same things I tell my clients.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm a coach too, and I tell folks coaching is not for everyone. And even if it is, it may not be for you at this time, but that should not be an excuse to prevent you from growing.
Absolutely.
So, Deetra, thank you for dropping in with me and with Forward Women's Leadership Forum and this WLF Live. We just love you. We love you in the E-Suite. You're one of my favorite people, and now you know why. So I encourage you, if you want a weekly dose of Deetra, Happily Ever Employed is a podcast for her. And I'm so happy. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention as a parting?
Actually, yes. A fall we did. You all know I am one of the co-founders of a conference called the Quick Commuting Conference, and it's the largest conference for employees out there around remote work. And so last conference was absolutely amazing. We had sponsors like Twitter and Waste Management. And we're coming back again in the spring. So as I mentioned earlier, if your job is talking about, hey, you got to go back into the office, no, you don't. Attend that Quick Commuting Conference. We have tickets that range from free all the way up to premium, where you get placed with recruiters to actually interview for positions that will be available while we're there. So make sure you go to quickcommuting.com and check everything out. And we hope to see you at the Quick Commuting Conference.
Absolutely. And if your goal is to have more flexibility, I meet with people all the time. I have now become accustomed to this remote work and I don't want to change it. Or I realize that I'm really good at some things that I never had a chance to do before.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is you and you're trying to put together your plan to make that a permanent change, then the Quick Commuting Conference may be something that's on your task list. So think about it that way. Thank you, Deetra, for joining us. And she also mentioned it as, and I know you have a busy day, so I will say adieu as I thank her and welcome you to join her podcast weekly. But Deetra mentioned something while she was talking about entrepreneurs and whether you're the CEO or an executive and corporation, in a company, in a government agency, in a nonprofit, or whether you are running your own company, continuous development, professional development, and growth is still important. It's important to all of us as humans. And so another one of my favorites and partners in eSuite Academy is Valerie Jackson. And Valerie specifically works with folks on mindset, on growth, and specifically on being strategic with your tasks and your time as a business owner. So, Valerie, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you so much, Erica. Love being here with you.
Absolutely. And welcome back to WLF Live. You were here before, I want to say in 2021, with
Yes.
conversation about personality type and how that affects productivity. Right. So now we're talking a little bit more about professional development goals. And as Deetra mentioned, the tasks that we assign ourselves that are in alignment with what we say we want for our careers, or in your case, for businesses. What have you seen from business owners, from entrepreneurs related to setting appropriate developmental goals and then putting themselves on a track to achieve them?
So, just like Deetra said, and she's known for dropping those nuggets of truth, this correlates to people as entrepreneurs as well, as for the high achievers. What I'm seeing is it's the end of the year, and I, just like Deetra, I'm getting those calls. Oh my gosh, it's the end of 2021. I did not reach the goals that I wanted to. So here's one of the common mistakes I see is that we don't check in on our goals often enough. We've set these annual goals that should really have monthly or sometimes even weekly benchmarks. When we leave ourselves too much time to play, unfortunately, we play. And we lose track. We do one of the most dangerous things. We are the victims of drift. Drifting. See, here's the thing about drift, and I talk about this often. Drift shows up and you don't recognize it. Drift has this nice rhythm. It has a cadence and it feels easy. And drift falls right in with what's happening around us, so we don't see it. But what it does is it causes us to take our eyes off of what's important because we're just moving along to the rhythm. And then we get here at a place where we're used to assessing how well we've done, and we haven't done so well.
I'm glad you mentioned drift. And one of the remedies to drift is to write it down. So it's not just about writing out a plan, but when you're looking at, we have a new year about to about to start, and I'm looking at these activities and these tasks and these goals from a monthly or a quarterly angle. That means that I can check in with myself or with an accountability partner, which Valerie doesn't love that term, but an accountability partner or a coach or somebody to who also is aware of the goals that we've set for ourselves, and do that monthly or do that quarterly so that we don't experience that drift. And that's regardless of whether you are an entrepreneur or whether you're a W-2 working a 9 to 5 um, for somebody else. Those opportunities to really check in, because that is how you avoid getting to December and not having accomplished the things that you set out to accomplish in January. So I'm glad you made that point, and that's relevant to everyone. Are there particular tasks that entrepreneurs, business owners, folks who have very limited time should focus on, types of activities that they can include in this plan that they develop, whether it's a monthly plan or a quarterly plan? Are there certain routine developmental activities or tools or types of programs that you would suggest for continuous development for entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. So one of the terms you hear all the time is like-minded. Like-minded. I'm going to challenge like-minded. As you know, I like to challenge things. I'm going to tell you that as an entrepreneur, as a high achiever, you need to find people who are like valued. Because what like valued does for you is in a situation where like-minded says yes to your yes, you don't need yes to your yes. You need why to your yes. And like valued puts you in a situation where an advocate or some people who are looking for accountability partners, that person's going to ask you why you're doing what you're doing. And so it challenges not just your mindset, but it challenges your activity. And activities are the things that we control. Activities are what influence our outcomes. And if we can be more purposeful and intentional about our activities, we're going to create a result at the end that looks like what we intended from the beginning. So it's those things, it's those regular activities daily. And what kinds of activities? Well, they can be focused around the numbers that you're generating, because you got to know what your numbers are in your business. Which numbers? I'll just give you a couple examples. What are your conversion rates? How many people do you need to talk to get to a closed sale? There's a big one. And if you don't have your eyes on that, and you're not doing the activities that are going to generate the results in that one area, you're going to get to the end of the year and be disappointed.
So that's an interesting spin on a year for growth, right? This is a year for growth. And from the business side, we think about growing our business, and we also think about growing ourselves, but the two are related. So as Valerie just said, in growing my business, I might want to grow my revenues. Might want to increase my customer base. I might want to do some add to the offerings. All of these things might be goals. And we put that out in the assessment. What are our actual goals? Where are we? Where do we want to be? And then it comes to the individual. So if growing my customer base means that I have to master or learn marketing or some new skill, then I align my personal development plan with the goals for my company after I assess those gaps. If it may be something like getting my finances together, and I realize that that is not my strong suit, then I have to look at what are the needs there. Is it that I need to invest in some training so that I feel more comfortable with the operations and the financial management? Or is it that I need to invest in my hiring and recruitment hat so that I have the skills necessary to attract and onboard someone who can do those things? So, from a business perspective, it's the same overall process, looking at what is the goal, where am I currently, where do I want to be, and what are the gaps, and then developing a plan that you can check into monthly or quarterly to see where you assess where you are in really moving forward. Valerie, did you have anything else you want to add with respect to growth for entrepreneurs, as either as an individual or from growing their business?
Absolutely. So here's the last little tidbit I want to share. What I see us really struggling with and it's kind of a global concept, is just plainly getting things done. We take on so much as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as that person that's headed for the C-suite. We take on so much that we get busy, but we're not productive. We're exhausted at the end of our day, our month, our year. But when we look at what's actually happened, we're not moving the needle. And let me tell you, moving the needle is not a huge accomplishment. We need to pick up this thing and move it, not the needle. So getting things done is hard for us. And when we look at it through the lens, as I do, of personality type, understanding where you struggle in getting things done is paramount to actually achieving. So what I'm going to say is you have to understand who you are and what your preferences are, where you struggle, and how you can actually get things done, accomplish, moved, get traction. Same thing that Deidre said. It's all about the action. It's the doing that counts.
Excellent. And Valerie, Fierce Focus Strategies. I am so excited you were able to join me, and this is my final WLF Live for 2021. Thank you for all that you do and for helping people get things done. I believe you have a course on getting things done and mindset for implementation. So um, check out Valerie Jackson for more information about those. Valerie, thank you so much for joining us here on WLF Live.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And so I heard a few things as we close out today. And one starts with making certain that your mind set is focused on growth and really checking in with yourself on where you are, where you want to be, what you need to get there. Two, actually executing and implementing change, whether those are activities or whether those are tasks, whether that's attending the Forward WLF Forward Women's Leadership Forum in March, whether that is attending some other forum throughout the year, as long as it's strategic and aligned with your goals and you know what it is that you want to accomplish. Going ahead and setting those on your schedule, on your calendar, and committing yourself to growth throughout the year. Also, I heard that it's important that you surround yourself with like minded is what we sometimes say, but also like valued, as Valerie mentioned, people who will help you to stay on track. That may be your supervisor, that may be your mentor, that may be a coach, or that may be some podcast or happily ever employed or something of that nature, WLF Live, that helps you to stay on track and stay committed and stay motivated to achieve those goals. You want to be accountable, have accountability as well for yourself. And that means checking in weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually on where you are and whether those goals that you initially set are still in alignment with who you are, what your current life reality is, and where you want to be. And finally, I will say, ladies, take time for yourself and self care. And so, as we're setting goals, as we're closing out this year, thinking about what worked for us, thinking about what we want to change and what we might want to improve upon, and looking toward our planning for next year, give yourself some grace Give yourself a pat on the back for making it this far, and give yourself a break and rest as we focus on self-care in 2022. I am Erica Roberts, the president and founder of X is Possible, LLC, the creator of the eSuite Academy, which is all about professional empowerment, and a very happy contributor to WLF Live with Maryland Public Television Forward Women Leadership Forum. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful end of the year and a wonderful start to next year.